So in this second example, I've given you an equation, and I want you to solve it for y. In other words, find the value of y, which makes this equation balance. Here are your options. First, divide by 18 on both sides, or first subtract 23 from both sides, or subtract 14y from both sides, add 21 to both sides, or divide both sides by 14. So those are your 5 options, and in 5 seconds, give me 1 through 5 fingers. 1. All right, so here's where you came down on this combination of steps. Here's the good news about these options, is that neither of the options 2 or 3 are actually incorrect ways to proceed. In our last example, there was actually a number of options that would just plain not have been correct. But either 2 or 3 will actually, be effective in some way to help us continue to solve this problem. But let's talk about the decision process. If I subtract 23 from both sides, then what am I going to get at the end of that process? So I'm going to get, a number on the right-hand side, the constant term, which is negative. On the left-hand side, I'm going to have 18y. Negative 21 minus 23, that's negative 44, plus 14y. And that's okay, that's fine. That gives me a perfectly valid step in my problem-solving process. But what didn't that do? Somebody that chose option 3, tell me why you prefer 3. Yeah. Right. So one of the tricky things about solving an equation where the variable appears on both sides is that before we can solve the equation in total, we need to isolate it so that the variable only is on one side of the equation. My personal preference, and so is yours if you chose option 3, is to take care of that variable on both sides right off the bat, rather than leaving it on both sides for too long. Because if you leave it on both sides for too long, sometimes people just get confused. And when it comes time to actually get the variable onto one side, they forget how to do it. So my personal preference is option 3. Subtracting 14y from both sides, takes care of the fact that there's a variable on both sides of the equation right off the bat. And I'll end up with 23 plus, what's 18y minus 14y? 4y equals negative 21. And so I like this as a most effective first step because it's addressed for me what's the most challenging aspect of this equation, which is the appearance of y on both sides of the equal sign. Again, either one of those options would have worked just fine, but this is the one that I think is more efficient at getting us toward a solution where the y is by itself.